So hi, welcome to our health and wellness webinars, hosted by the Margie Petersen Health and Wellness Center. If you're watching this on YouTube and would like to watch our future recordings live, we meet every third Thursday at 11:30 Pacific time. You can also find our Zoom link in the description box below. This month, we have Joseph Greenberg from Cancer Support Services. He is one of our social workers here who will be discussing sleep and wellness. Joseph, if you'd like to take it away.
All right. Thanks so much for that awesome introduction, Alston, and to each and one of every one of you all who've joined and having taking an interest in the program here, as well as just being open to learn some more information about how to improve our sleep. And so I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm not a doctor. So just keep in mind the things that I'm talking about in this presentation are just kind of behavioral and psychological recommendations and information to be aware of. If you have, more specific medical questions about your sleep, always talk to your doctor or medical team. So with that said, I'll get into kind of some of the learning objectives here. So we'll cover briefly in about 30 minutes or so these topics, and then we'll have a few minutes at the end for conversation, discussion, questions. But I'll cover some of the basics of what insomnia is, how to maintain a helpful routine for sleep that's conducive for sleep during the day, and then paying attention to our sleep environment in our room. Next will be, really how do we prepare ourselves for a good night of rest and sleep? And that's developing our own personal wind down before bed. What does a wind down routine look like before we go to sleep? Next, I'll cover stimulus control and what that pertains to. And then behavioral changes that can help, things that we physically can do and modify. And then lastly, I'll close with how we can adjust some of our thoughts about sleep and things that can make things worse for our sleep, beliefs that we hold that make things worse, or things that we can adjust to hopefully help promote a better sleep routine. And that's kind of the triangle of what's called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, where we're adjusting our thoughts, our behaviors, as well as um, our actions and our cognitions. Yeah, hitting on those different things. Okay, so I'll get right into it. So the basics. So basically, insomnia is having what that pertains to is having trouble either falling asleep, staying asleep, like tossing and turning, waking up frequently, or waking too early in the morning. And so that can and does affect a lot of us. Many adults have issues with some part of that process. It can last for a few days, or it can last for weeks. That's more of the short-term insomnia, and that's usually related to a stressor or a distressing event that can kind of really bother us or stick with us and affect kind of our psychological state. Some people can have long-term insomnia, which is also called chronic insomnia, that can last for 3 months or more. And that can be related to more other medical conditions or medicines. So kind of some things to be aware of. Something even related to like having obstructive sleep apnea can lead to like a chronic sleep challenge situation where it's more of a medical condition where we want to be talking to our medical team, our doctors about that. So that's kind of what insomnia is. And so kind of getting into some simple things is just keeping our routine consistent. Um, Having a set wake time that we're waking up during, every day of the week, and trying to kind of really stick to that, whether that's whatever that time is that works best for you, um, so that we can kind of get on a routine and a schedule, because our body starts to predict that and kind of expect that. Um, so so that's really it, setting a good wake time and utilizing that. And then avoid going to bed too early to catch up on sleeping in. So it's like if you had a bad night of sleep and you feel like you didn't get your full window of sleep, going to bed too early, like to catch up on things, is not going to be a good recommendation. For example, if your normal bedtime is 10 p.m. and you think to yourself, I'm going to go to bed at 8 and go to bed early, this is going to throw our routine off. So we want to stick to our routine as much as possible. Another kind of a concept that's interesting is developing our sleep drive. And so what I mean by that is that when we wake up in the morning, we're rested, and our drive for sleep is very low. And then as we go throughout our day, do our normal activities, we get more tired, more exhausted. Our balloon starts to inflate. Our drive for sleep becomes stronger. We're getting more tired. And then that will culminate at the end of the night, hopefully, where it's like, we're feeling exhausted, we're tired, our eyes are heavy, and we're ready to go to sleep. And that's when our sleep drive is at its peak and the balloon is the strongest. And so it's good to kind of be aware of the things that's kind of helping that sleep drive to continue to expand over the course of the day. And I'll talk more about kind of what those things are. But some of the things that help is making sure that you're getting some access to daylight during the day, having exposure to sun, and being physically active, really trying to, get whatever the right amount of steps in that you can kind of tolerate and feels right for you. So you're getting that physical exhaustion piece is really good. That adds to that sleep drive, as well as eating the right foods, that's going to also kind of not lead to like stomach upset, like not eating deep fried thing, or trying to keep it within moderation, deep fried things, heavier things, oily things, so that doesn't affect our sleep drive as well. And then lastly on the basics is making sure what does our sleep environment look like? What does the room look like within which we sleep? Um, are there noises that are distracting? Are there street lights that might be pouring into the window that kind of keep you awake? Is your bedding comfortable? Is your pillow adequate? All of these different factors can really contribute to having a really good, it can just affect the quality of sleep that you're having. Is your room peaceful? Is it can you make it less cluttered? These kinds of things. That the temperature, everyone knows about the temperature. Don't touch the temperature, right? Set it a certain amount. And but usually it's like the cooler the room temperature, that is usually a good, it's paired with having being able to sleep well as well. So but to what you're comfortable with, not too hot, not freezing where it's going to wake you up. um yeah, but making sure, and the bedding, that really is a big thing. That your mattress is comfortable to you, it's not causing back pain, your pillow is right, you're not waking up with neck pain, um those kinds of things. I'll go on to the next slide. All right. The wind down, the next topic. So the wind down is what is that period of time before bed that we can start to relax. I think that a lot of us, myself included, it's like you kind of get into a habit of like working up until the last minute and then trying to go to bed. And it's like our minds don't work that way. Unfortunately, we can't just like turn the power off on the computer and just expect to shut down within a couple of minutes. So it's really recommended to start winding down 1 or 2 hours before wanting to go to bed versus the few minutes right before. So what that means, so whatever your usual bedtime is, if that's 10 p.m., for example, we're starting at 8:30 or 9 to kind of we're going to stop working. And we're going to start thinking about and building a routine of things that's going to help us to relax before that bedtime. So things that are relaxing, that are frequently talked about, doing some gentle restorative yoga, talking about gentle stretches, not advanced stretches, not doing headstands, or just complex moves, gentle restorative. Meditating is an umbrella term. It can apply to many different types of styles of meditation that are calming. Journaling is a really big one that can really help bring about a sense of calm. I'll talk a lot more about journaling. Reading an actual book, even that's really cool. I like that. And making sure that the content isn't too overstimulating. Things like true crime, if you're sensitive to like reading about something like that, like maybe not that, maybe something more gentle, so that we can kind of get our minds really, really calm. So so building up. Oh, and they frequently talk also about a hot bath. A hot bath can also be very calming, raising the body temperature with that hot bath or shower, and then having it drop quickly is also kind of like a biological trigger to bring about drowsiness. So include that in that list of calming things. Uh, Also recommended. Not exercising right before bed, not doing any type of like vigorous physical activity. We don't want to do that. Um, and then opposing that, like some things that are not calming to do before bed, I'll add, that I think is important. So an example can be starting a conversation on a stressful topic with either your partner, your friend, family member, roommate, whatever it is. I think best to avoid doing that right before bed. Like you got to talk about something important. Obviously, that's a really, good thing to do. But just do it earlier in the day if possible. So that you're not having that happen right before bed, discussing bills, financial concerns, family or relationship issues, other sensitive topics, even planning your next day if that starts to, or like checking your email, your inbox, like doing those kinds of things. If you feel like your stress level kind of starting to rise, good to not do that right before bed, is my recommendation for me personally. Also, watching movies that are too stimulating, you kind of, it's like you want to engage in things that are not stimulating. Also, we're all guilty of this. Try to minimize, reduce, avoid scrolling on social media too much right before bed, if you can avoid it. Things like that. And Yeah, and the more that you kind of build this wind down routine into your daily practice, that will help to kind of become a signal to your body and your mind that, hey, bedtime is coming. Like I'm going to start getting into my sleep mode, and so and that kind of gets back into more of the having a consistent routine, can really be helpful. And then I'll add that the one other difference between doing these calming things and the things that are more stimulating is that in the calming arena of things, we're engaging what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's the rest digest system. So we're engaging that when we're meditating, when we're journaling, when we're doing yoga, we're engaging that rest system versus on the other side, the sympathetic nervous system, which we all know is the fight or flight nervous system. That's what it gets engaged when we're stressed out, when we perceive a threat or some type of uncomfortable stimulus that we're trying to get away from. We're engaging the sympathetic nervous system. So we want to turn that one off as much as we can. So that is the wind down. And moving along, this slide we're talking about stimulus control. And what I'm talking about here, as you can see on the slide, like what we can control that that also might kind of affect our sleeping ability later in the evening, our sleep drive. So not having, if we're sensitive to caffeine, know yourself, know your body. If you're sensitive to caffeine, generally stop drinking it, after 2 or 3 o'clock. If you know yourself, you know that you can have it a little bit later and it won't affect you, then so be it. But just know that caffeine can affect our ability to sleep and keep our minds kind of awake and active. Naps. This one is naps is an interesting topic. The general recommendation is you want to like keep your nap to 20 or 30 minutes if you do have a napping routine, and preferably have it, do it before 3-ish or 4. You don't want to be napping too close to bedtime because recall that image of the sleep balloon being totally inflated in the evening. Having that little nap, that 30-minute nap or so, that's going to deflate some of that pressure in the balloon. It's going to deflate some of the drive to sleep later at night. So be aware of that. Are naps helpful for people who need them or who are going through cancer treatment and have that extra fatigue? Naps is totally helpful and necessary, and can be incorporated. Absolutely. Just the recommendation to try to be aware of not having it be too long and not too late in the evening, is what I would add. And then alcohol. Pretty well known that like if you're starting to drink alcohol, that it's going to lead to some disrupted sleep. Know yourself, know your body, know what your tolerance levels are. If it's fun for you to have it in moderation, 1 or 2 nights a week, and you feel like that's important to you, by all means, just know that what happens to our body when our body processes the alcohol in the middle of the night, it withdraws a little bit from the alcohol, and that can kind of wake us up a little bit. Or lead to reduced sleep quality. So keep that in mind. Worry earlier in the day versus right before bed, as I kind of talked about. I'll talk a little bit more about worry. It relates more to kind of like the thought process as well. But I like to encourage folks to, if they are worriers, to schedule a worry time window earlier in the day. Set 20 minutes aside if you know that something's really bothering you, and allow yourself to just like go for it, let it all come out, and let that be in at the end of that time window to tell yourself to stop. Okay, I'm done worrying today. I will do this tomorrow if I need to. And that might kind of help contain some of the worry, so it's not popping up either right before bed or in the middle of the night. Sometimes, we cannot control our thoughts. Trying to control our thoughts is basically impossible. So just I acknowledge that. But sometimes, so it's a matter of kind of like trying to accept those worries and adopting the mindset that it's going to pass, it's going to work through, it's going to be okay. But we definitely are all prone to having what I call it the hot thoughts that love to come out like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. feel like we all might have experience with that. Um, and these thoughts are oftentimes we're not thinking clearly, we're tired, don't feel great, and these thoughts can be much made to feel much worse than they actually are. Um, and so it's just always helpful to remember that those thoughts are, you know, that they are not as bad as they seem, and to work with them when they happen. And so how do we work with them? Um, Basically, there's everyone has a different kind of solution or a way to manage it, but journaling, like when you wake up and you're stewing on it for more than 20 or 30 minutes to the get out of bed, and write it down, get it out of your head in whatever way you can, whether it's, on your phone or on a piece of paper. Um, uh, Try to just get it out of your mind. And oftentimes doing that helps gain perspective on what it is that you're worrying about. You start to realize that, you know what, this really isn't that big of a deal. Like, is it as bad as I thought it was? No, it really isn't. And in processing that way, it can kind of help um, reduce some of the worry. So I do recommend yeah, journaling, or if you can, if you have access to a partner, friend, family person before bed, if you know that something distressing happened in your day and you're feeling off, to ask to check in, and just allow yourself to kind of go through what it was that was bothering you, um, and to get that support, to help to understand that what you're thinking about is not as bad as it seems. Um, and then just to be aware of, if getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom is an issue for folks, to be aware of, maybe limiting the amount of liquid we're drinking before, in the hours before bed, and that might help with reducing some of the need to use the restroom in the middle of the night. Okay, we got a few more slides I'll go through um, today. So next is behavior change. Um, so yeah, really kind of listening to our body and going to bed when we feel sleepy, not getting into bed an hour before our bedtime to like get a head start, and we're not really sleepy yet, so like we're spending more time in bed awake. Don't want to do that. Listen to those cues. Go to bed when you're sleepy so that we can hopefully fall asleep within 15 minutes and not be in bed for half an hour, 45 minutes awake. Want to avoid that. Avoid staying in bed when you're awake. So as I mentioned before, if we're awake in bed for longer than 20 minutes, either right at bedtime or the middle of the night or in the morning, get out of bed after that 20 or 30 minutes. Go do something boring, relaxing, and then come back when you're feeling more tired. So even if that's in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock, if you're in bed for 30 minutes, or you're awake, I'm sorry, for more than 30 minutes or so, either, sit yourself up in bed, prop yourself up, uh, and, read something quietly if it's not disturbing anybody, or do something kind of, gentle, boring, relaxing, reading a magazine, newspaper, what have you, to get yourself tired. And then when you're feeling tired, come back to the bed. And I didn't mention, if we're up in the middle of the night awake, some things that can help are, that I like personally, meditations, like I said, and then also, there are many apps out there that have meditations on them, as well as what are called, I like sleep stories, that basically kind of tell a meditate almost hypnotic style story, where you're kind of listening to it, but then you're able to drift off, and it kind of helps put you to sleep. So those things can be helpful tools. Um, Reduce checking the clock if that's a habit. If you're just like looking at your phone every 20 or 30 minutes, feeling worse, avoid doing that. and then add in some of those physical activities during the day to get yourself even extra tired. Going for that extra walk, that extra exercise routine, whatever it is, kind of can add some of the physical tiredness to the routine and help. And all right, now adjusting our thoughts. So I'll touch on this briefly. I think that it's very common that if we're all very connected, I feel like, to getting our quote unquote certain number of hours of sleep a night. Like whether it's 7 hours or I need to have 8 hours or I need to have 9 hours. And we think that I need to get that full 8 hours or else what? I'll feel terrible. I won't feel good. I can't function, or like, yeah, those types of things. And I just want to give all of us permission to like let go of those rules. They're not actually accurate. If you're having a bad night of sleep and and you're not able to, you're tossing and turning what it is, what have you, and we're telling ourselves, oh my God, tomorrow is going to be awful. I'm not going to be, we're all guilty of that, I think. And to just instead try replacing that with something like, I can function on 5 hours. I won't feel great, but I'm going to be able to get through my day just fine. I can function on 5 hours. And then hopefully the following night, my sleep balloon will be very inflated and I will be able to get to sleep okay and sleep deeply and profoundly, and feel better. So I just want people to hold on to that, that we can function on 5 hours. Do we want to do that, 6, 7, 8 nights in a row? No. If that starts happening, then you want to start including your medical doctor on, okay, like what else is going on? Are there some medicines that might be able to help as well, kind of temporarily help my situation, things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to uh let people know that we don't need to have that magic number of 8 or 9 hours. Our sleep needs change as we get older. Small children and teens need much more sleep than folks in middle and later age. So keep that in mind. Um, and yeah, those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about for adjusting our thoughts. And that leads us to um, my conclusion. So just to wrap up, and then we can get to kind of some discussion. So to review, set a wake time and stick to it for consistency. That we're kind of maintaining a normal routine, a predictable routine for our body to kind of know what's coming. Utilize that wind down period before bed, that 1 hour time period before bed. Do the things that are going to be relaxing and calming. Go to bed when sleepy. And to get out of bed if we're awake for more than 20 or 30 minutes, so that we're not pairing our beds with our minds thinking that we're supposed to be awake in our beds. Um, so that, and then be mindful of any negative hot thoughts that might come up. They're often wrong and not accurate, and those are improved by just getting them out, journaling, processing about them, uh, talking to somebody about them, and then be outside, as that you can do during your schedule, and utilize breaks, and those are all things that will be helpful to getting a consistent, better night of sleep. So with that, I'll conclude, and Alston, I think we can open it up to any discussion or questions or feedback or ideas.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, I know off the bat I have one. I hear a lot of people talk about melatonin. Does that work? Is that useful? Is melatonin, if you're having trouble sleeping, like what use is that?
Yeah. Melatonin, that's a great question. Melatonin, some people definitely utilize and you utilize it and like it, enjoy it. And it can be helpful in some scenarios, especially in when people are dealing with jet lag. Melatonin can be helpful. I don't think it's intended as a regular use thing, but but if you like it and it helps you, then by all means continue. I would again ask your doctor about the specific amounts that are helpful as far as the milligrams of melatonin. There's usually a set amount that you want to use, and it's not a supplement that's like the more you take, the more sleepy you are. It's kind of the opposite. So just talk to your doctor about the amount that you should be taking. Um, and yeah, yeah, that's what I think about melatonin. Another thing that I'll add in there is that uh, things that are non-medication, things that can help, chamomile tea is shown to be pretty helpful with bringing about kind of a level of drowsiness and calmness before bed. Is often recommended. Chamomile tea.
Gotcha. Any other questions from anyone else? Okay. Thank you for hosting this webinar with us, Joseph, and we'll be back next month with another.